So now we're going to be learning how to install the xTool M1 Ultra's rotary tool, so that way we can do a couple different projects on it. So it comes in the longer one, which is going to go on our right side extra carriage. So I'm going to go ahead and open this by, there's a little silver lever I'm going to open, and I'm going to remove the other tool that I was using, which was my embossing tool. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to make sure that when I install it, there is this little arrow and I need it to be pointing up. So I'm going to just insert this in, making sure that arrow is facing forward, and then I'm just going to close the little lever and then put my cap back on.
We're going to start with a cute little pocket hug.
And so to do that, I need a shape. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to go over to my shapes panel and I'm going to do a heart. I don't want it to be super big. I'm thinking about just under 3 inches. Maybe we'll go actually to a full 3. So I'm going to click on this, and on the right hand side I'm going to click my width and make it 3 inches. Now most hearts like this should be a perfect heart, but I know that there can always be slight differences, and because I have never tested this heart before, I'm going to copy and paste this exactly, and then I'm going to reflect it. On the right hand side of my pan, I'm going to click reflect horizontally, and this is just because when I put the two together, I want to make sure that the front and back are matching. So now I need to highlight my heart, and I'm going to rotate this around because I want to use as little of my fabric as possible, and so I can just kind of nest these into each other a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight these. On the right hand side, you're going to make sure that you click processing, and you're going to go down to your multi-module processing. The rotary tool gets used on the second module to the right. So if you wanted to do one of these other tools, it's not possible. Like if you wanted to do what I mean on the left hand side, it's not possible. So you have to use the multi-module processing. And when you click that, you can highlight your hearts again. And then you're going to go down and choose the rotary blade as your module. Your processing type is only one option, the rotary cutting. And then you're going to do your settings. Now, I have some suggestions from xTool as one of the people that's going to be testing this machine. I'm sure over time they will change maybe slightly, but by the time you order the machine, there will be a full library of suggestions for what to do. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to be using a cut pressure of 1400 and a speed of 20 because that is what is suggested for our fabric. We are now ready to process. If you are working with a small piece of fabric, make sure you do framing first. I know that mine will easily cover, like it's gonna cut. I'm not worried about the framing, but don't forget to do framing if yours is going to be possibly like a small little section that you wanna make sure yours cuts in. So we're gonna go ahead and click process. All right, it's showing us a preview. Now we're gonna go ahead and click start. I'm gonna show you what it looks like over in the machine. Okay, so we are all ready. So we're gonna go ahead and click this start button. I'll show you the finished product when it's all done. So it's all finished. I'm gonna go ahead and try to peel this back, leaving just the hearts so we can see what it cut out. And look, we got perfect little hearts. I'm so excited to make my cute little pocket hug.
And this is what the pocket hug looks like after I sewed it and of course stuffed it.
Now we're going to go ahead and create a heart, only this time we're going to make it bigger, and I'm going to do it 2 times. So I'm going to, in the upper left hand side, click the image, and I'm going to click a heart. I really have everything I feel like is heart themed today, because in addition to this, we're also going to make a little embroidery hoop that has hearts on the fabric. So I'm going to go ahead, and I know that the size that I'm working with, I only have about 10 inches in my height. And I'm not going to go quite as big as 10. I'm going to go ahead on the right hand side and just click 9. Okay, now I just want to make sure that it does fall within my fabric because it is a larger piece. So on the right hand side, when I click off, I can click shoot background. obtain background, and then I'm going to use my app to get my background. Okay, I'm going to click send to computer and scan it, the QR code, and that it will upload here. Okay, so I just want to make sure that my heart fits. Now we need to do our settings for our heart. So on the right hand side, we're going to click processing. We are going to go down to our multi-module processing. Then I will click my heart again, and we will switch it from the laser down to the rotary blade, which of course, as you see now, my color disappears because it's just going to be cutting it on the outside. Then for user defined, I'm going to do my settings. We'll click easy piano. I should have saved this, I didn't. So we're going to do 1400 with a speed of 20, and I'm going to save this. This is for cotton fabrics. All right, and we are ready to process it. So I'm going to click process in the upper right hand corner. This is showing us what the preview will be. I will click start, and then I'll show you what it looks like over in the M1 Ultra. Ready to cut, we're gonna click our start button, and the rotary tool will turn and do its thing. All right, I will show you what the finished project looks like when it's done. I realized I forgot to show you what the finished heart looks like on the mat, but this is how it came out. And then we're gonna just peel off the backing for the heat and bond, and then we will heat press it onto our fabric pillows. So when you're working with fabric using a rotary cutter, heat transfer tape becomes super important because it doesn't have that sticky backing that HTV has. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I put on some sort of protectant. So I'm going to put on my Teflon sheet. And I'm going to go ahead and press. And it is going to take a couple presses because I can't get this bottom area. And that's okay. Okay, I'm going to now do the other side. And because this is so large, this probably would have worked really well if I just actually took it off of the stand and pressed directly on the counter, not onto the counter, but onto the pressing pad. But I went ahead and did it this way, and that's okay. I forgot to start my timer because it's hidden. That's okay, we can estimate it. And so this is ready to be stuffed with a pillow, and it is perfect for, honestly, Valentine's Day or anytime. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and work on our cute little embroidery frame. So for this, I've just come up with an SVG that I got from Creative Fabrica, and we're just gonna be cutting out a cute little XOXO that can be used, honestly, any time of year, or it can be used for Valentine's Day. So on the left-hand side, we're gonna click Image. We're gonna go down to our XOXO. Click open. Okay, so now we are going to have to shrink this down because this is a very small little embroidery hoop. The entire design has to be smaller than 4.5 inches. I'm gonna keep going. Actually, on the right hand side, we're just gonna change our width. Let's just do 4. Because we don't want to have it all the way go to either edge. We want to have a little bit of clearance. Okay, now we're going to highlight this. We're going to go over to processing and click processing, and then we're going to go down to multi-module processing. We're going to highlight again, and we are going to go down to rotary blade on our right hand side here. And then it's going to do user defined setting, and we're going to go with our cotton fabric setting. Now this cotton fabric is a little bit thicker than the last one, so because of it, I'm going to open up my Easy Set panel, and I'm going to change my pass to 2. And this is just going to ensure that it gets through this fabric because it is slightly thicker than the other ones. All right, so we are ready to click process. We're going to click process in the upper right hand corner. I'm not worried about framing again because my fabric is all the way in the top left portion of my fabric mat. So I'm going to click process. It's going to show us a preview of the design. I'm going to click start, and then I'll show you over on the M1 Ultra what it looks like. So we're ready to begin. We're going to click our start button. The rotary tool will move into place and it will begin, and it is going to cut this twice. I will come back and show you what the finished product looks like. So this is what the final XOXO looks like. And it has the heat bond on the back. And I'm going to save now these cute little hearts to also be able to use other places later.
All right, so here's a sped up video of me using my xTool heat press to press this onto the base. And that's it. We are ready to go ahead and assemble this in the embroidery hoop.
Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and make some really simple banners. And to do this, I'm going to be using two different types of fabric. The first one is like a really simple cotton fabric. And I'm going to use it without any sort of backing because I do want to test what happens with the rotary blade when there is no backing. Because so far everything I've done has had heat and bond on it because I'm going to be actually using it to put onto something else and needed the heat and bond. So we're going to go ahead and test to see how the rotary tool does with this. So in the upper left hand side, I'm going to click shape, going to go to my banner, click open. Okay, so for this design, let's get rid of our shapes. I want the banner to be able to hang over a pole. So because of that, I do need it to go slightly taller because in reality, this is going to be cut off here because this is going to go over and around to the other side. And I will probably put heat and bond on this after I am done cutting it at the very tip, just like a little strip all the way across, so that way I can easily bond it. And if not, I'll just use some sort of hot glue or fabric glue to do it after the fact. But for right now, I just want to get this shape cut. My fabric does take up the entire mat, so I don't have to worry about whether or not this is going to fit on there. And then afterwards, I'm going to just use HTV to put a design on the top because I do want to test using multiple tools. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the right hand side our processing, and we're going to click the multi-module processing. Then I'm going to click back on my design, and instead of laser module, I need to change this to rotary blade. I'm going to go down to my cotton fabrics, but I'm going to do a pass of 2 because this is slightly thicker than some of my other cotton fabrics, and I just want to make sure it cuts all the way through. And then we're going to go ahead and click process. Okay, we're going to click start, and then I'll show you what it looks like over on the machine. We can go ahead and start cutting our banner. We're going to click our start button, and the rotary tool will begin. Again, this is cutting without any sort of backing, and so far it is doing great. So I can't wait to see what the final project is, which I will show you when we're done. Here's the moment of truth. Again, we have no backing, so we're just going to go ahead and see if this peels off, and it does. And now I have a perfectly shaped banner.
Here's a quick video of me putting on the HTV that I cut out using my xTool M1 Ultra, which I do show inside of another tutorial. And here I am heat pressing it, and this is what it looks like afterwards.
All right, now we're going to do the same, only this time we are going to actually be using a different material that's more like a fleece or felt type material. It's kind of in between. And so we're going to see whether or not I can test something this thick. All right, we're going to change our settings. We're going to do a cut pressure of 200. We're going to do a speed of 80, but I'm actually going to still keep on the pass of 2. It's interesting that they suggested a much stronger, I wonder if they meant to say 2,000 for the cut pressure. See if it'll go to 2,000. Okay, I actually think, I wonder if it should have been 2,000 and not 200. So we're going to try this. We're going to click process, and now I'm going to hit start. Okay, so we're going to click start on our machine. This worked this time, and it did.
So here's a sped up video of me again putting on my HTV that I also cut out with my xTool M1 Ultra. I do show that in another tutorial where I show you how to use the cutting blade, but I did want to show you the steps that it took for me to heat press this. Now I will say that I had to do it in 2 steps because when I was weeding, I accidentally weeded out a part I shouldn't have, so I had to do 2 different layers. But this is the very sped up version of me putting the HTV onto the banner that I cut out using the rotary tool. And I will have a full tutorial of both my cutting blade and the new heat press from xTool. And here's the finished product.
Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and try to make 2 felt pennants. I'm going to make one that is felt on felt, and then I'm going to try one with HTV on felt. So that way I'm using all the different tools that our xTool M1 Ultra has to offer when working with fabric, because the other thing that you can use with fabric, of course, is HTV heat transfer vinyl. So the first thing I need to do is I'm going to get my pennant. I'm going to click in the upper left hand side my image. I'm going to go over to my U-Rock pennant because this is the one that I'm going to do first. Now I can only have the fabric that I have cut for my U-Rock cannot be bigger than 6.5 inches. And I'm going to ungroup this, and then I'm going to regroup just the U-Rock. So the biggest I want this to be would be 6.5 inches in its height. And the biggest, of course, my pennant can be is 12 inches because that's as big as I can cut. So I think we're going to just make it as big as we can possibly make it. And this is still easily clears, not being more than 6 inches. So I'm going to group this, and then I'm actually going to do a second canvas. So on my left-hand side here, if I click canvas, I can then click a plus sign, and I'm going to take the U-Rock, I'm going to cut it out and put it on this canvas because I'm going to do it second. Okay, so now we need to do our settings. We're going to highlight our pennant, and on the right-hand side, for our module, we need to go down to a rotary blade. Then we're going to do our cut pressure is going to be 2000 based on my settings, and our speed is going to be 80. I'm going to save this so that I don't forget. And we're going to try a single pass. I did do a double pass before, and I don't think it was actually necessary because it did look cut on the first one. But I'm going to test it with this felt and just do 1 pass because, of course, it's much faster if I only need to do 1 pass. I also feel like with fabric, there's a lot less that can mess up with movement because once something is cut, it could come away slightly from your mat. So I feel like 1 pass is always the better option. All right, but we are actually ready to go. So I'm going to click process. And then I'm going to click start, and then I'll show you over in the machine what it looks like. All right, so we are ready. We're going to click the start button on the M1 Ultra. It is going to begin cutting, and I have no backing on this of any kind. This is just plain felt. When I go to do my letters, though, I will have backing. All right, it is finished. Let's see if it was able to do it in 1 pass. So I'm going to very carefully lift my felt up, and it did easily do it in 1 pass. So if I take this off, you can see what our full pennant looks like. All right, let's cut some letters. Go ahead and move on to our letters. So we're gonna go over to our letters, and on the right-hand side again, we're gonna click processing, multi-module processing, then we're gonna highlight our letters again. And we're gonna switch over here on the right-hand side where it says laser module down to rotary blade. And then I'm going to do my settings. I'm going to go to felt. And believe it or not, we are ready to cut. We are ready to start. We're going to push our start button on our M1 Ultra. And it is cutting, and I will show you the final step when it is done. So when I cut out the words "you rock," I want to make sure that when I put them on my banner that they stay in the correct placement. but this is not like HTV. So when you're working with cutting fabric, the biggest difference is that it doesn't have any sort of backing. So that means your best bet is to use something like heat tape. I apologize because I do have my machine still running in the background. So I'm just going to take a piece of heat safe tape and I'm going to run it across here. And then I'm also going to run it in 2 more spots. And I know I still have to actually weed out my letters essentially, but that's actually not going to be a problem. I'm going to flip it over and I will weed it out the other direction. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so now what I need to do is I'm going to push out my letters, keeping them in their place. So I pushed it through like you saw. So now I can take this and just peel this off. And my letters have stayed on my heat safe tape. And all I have to do now, of course, is pick out my O and my other O here, very gently. All right, so we are ready to put this on. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on my next pennant design. In the upper left-hand side, I'm going to click Image, and I'm going to go down to Mustard Pennant. Now I'm going to make this bigger than my last one, and I purposely have the little tassel parts separate so that I can. So what I need to do is actually turn this entire thing on an angle. Now I am going to ungroup this, and then I'm going to group mustard, and we're going to move these over so that way it'll be a little bit easier to work all on one screen. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn this because I will be able to make it the biggest I can if I put it on an angle because of the shape that it is. So I think that's about the biggest I can get. So if I were to take this same shape and turn it the other way, it's not going to fit. It'll be too wide. So that's why we are turning it at an angle. And then I'm going to cut this in the same color. Now for my mustard, I'm going to cut this out because it is going to actually be cut out of HTV. So I'm going to just paste it here and work with it later. I'm going to actually turn it so that way it is turned. Okay, and so we'll go back here to our mustard. And what I need to do though now is I have a piece of felt and I'm going to have to do a background shot of what the felt looks like on the board to make sure the entire thing cuts. And I'm going to nest this as close as I can. So I'm going to click Shoot Background, click Obtain Background, and then I'm going to use the app to shoot inside of my machine. All right, so I'm going to send this to the computer. All right, and so I can see it easily fits in there. I'm within my boundaries, so we are ready to go ahead and cut. So I'm going to click, I'm on the wrong setting. So we're going to click both of these and we need to go over to processing, make sure we are on the multi-module processing. Then I will click them again and I will switch over to the rotary blade and I will use my felt setting. All right, we are ready. So I'm going to go ahead and click process. I will click start and then show you what it looks like over in our M1 Ultra. Ready to begin. I'm going to click the start button and it is going to cut our felt. I will show you what it looks like when it is all finished. So let's see how this cut. And it cut through really well. So I'm going to go ahead and work on cutting my HTV now.
Right now, here's a sped up video of me using my xTool heat press to press both of my banners. The one is felt on felt using some heat and bond backing, and then the second one is some heat transfer vinyl that I did cut with my xTool M1 Ultra machine, which I show you in another post when I am showing you how to use the cutting blade. So I know that that was a whole lot of video with so many different projects, but as you can see, there's so many different projects that you can create using the xTool M1 Ultra, especially when you're pairing it with other tools such as the cutting blade to be able to cut out HTV. And honestly, there are so many endless projects that you can do with this machine because it truly is the ultimate craft hobby machine all in one.